Happy Thursday. Welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. I am Anthony Totri. We've got the one, the only Ralph Amsden joining us today for all things athletic director and the Georgia Bulldogs, of course. But before we get into all of that, guys, do us a solid. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and wherever you get your podcasts, if this is your first go-around, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you like about this podcast. We got DJ Danielle behind the Mac making all of the magic happening. Guys, because of everything that's gone on for the last, I don't know, it's probably only a week, but it feels like it's been a solid month of just drama every single day. Just everybody, if you're listening or if you're watching, just take a deep breath, okay? Just take a deep breath. It's okay. I know me and Ralph were talking a little bit before we even got the show started. He's out there just trying to create little pockets of peace because Arizona State is doing the exact opposite of that. There is no such thing as peace in Tempe these days. It is constant. It's just fire raining down from above every single day at this point for the Arizona State Sun Devils. Ralph, what is just the last, I don't know, 6 days and change been like for you, right? Starting with Rashada entering the portal, Elijah Badger, Bryce Pierre, the Herm Edwards investigation, then the show clause penalties, and now you've got this lovely shitstorm of the athletic director position, you know, boosters versus Michael Crow, a new Crow contract. Like, there's so much going on.
Yeah, so I on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, host these Sun Devil Spaces every Wednesday night. Been doing it like 3 years. And last Wednesday night, I had a technical issue that kept me from being able to speak on it. And I remember after about 5 minutes giving up and being like, it's okay. Because really the only thing that happened in the last week was Samples left for Oregon and Hines Ward, came on. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about that next week. That's what I told myself last Wednesday. And then, the last week has been like drinking from a fire hose while being sprayed with a fire hose in the back of your head. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point where it's hard to keep track of. And there are things, and you get the benefit of doing this daily. And I'm sure that some days you're looking for something to talk about. And on some days it's like, how are we going to get to this?
Mm-hmm.
And I could have built a whole show around Kenny Dillingham saying, like, we got to quit worrying about what's going on in the past. We got to start looking to the future. Like, I don't got time to think about the past or the future because of what is happening today. I'm stuck in today. It's been nutty. And it's been nice to have like an hour or two just today of no major news breaking.
Right.
Because I'm not sure. I haven't even had time to process, Jaden Rashada going to Georgia, or Austin Nunez coming back, or the Sun Devil source releasing the specifics of the penalties that Arizona State is facing, or the fact that the boosters are trying to lead some type of revolt. I'm still stuck on like 4 or 5 days ago on the Adrian Wilson commitment and how cool it is to have somebody named Adrian Wilson coming back to Arizona.
Yeah. No, there's been so much going on. And we were talking a little bit before the show, like Austin Nunez coming back like to ASU, Bobby Hurley, it's a position of need. It's something that any other week we're talking about it, and it's certainly something that we could get into. It just feels like with everything going on right now, you don't have any time for it. ASU got a transfer tight end from Cincinnati and Colorado that we're not going to really have a whole lot of time to talk about today because there is just so much going on at all times. And it's not like weeks in the past where it's been like, oh, Arizona State got a few recruits, or hey, the quarterback competition. This is like major stuff, right? Like the investigation stuff that came out last week, what was really a story and a show that had been unfolding for years at this point. You talk about the Michael Crow and the athletic director position, something I know I was able to hop in the spaces just for a tad second last night. You're like, this is 160 plus days now of no athletic director for the Arizona State Sun Devils. So let's go ahead. Let's start diving into that because Chris Cartman, the Sun Devil source, first and foremost, just been absolutely just hitting home runs every single day with some of these stories. It's been unbelievable. And he broke the story last night just in terms of the athletic director position, Michael Crow receiving backlash by some boosters for the idea of an internal hire. Graham Rossini is a guy that we've mentioned being a candidate for quite some time now, would be an internal hire. For those of you that don't know who Graham Rossini is or just kind of his role, he is a member of Crow's University Council and management teams. He is responsible for Sun Devil Athletics external departments related to ticket sales, corporate partnerships, NIL development, fan experience. Also reportedly played a big role in ASU volleyball hiring J.J. Van Neal, who, as we know, was Pac-12 Coach of the Year as it relates to volleyball. For you, Ralph, I feel like somebody that, again, you're involved with Arizona State. It's not necessarily a daily thing, right? For you can see something, but it is that week of Sun Devil Spaces where you get the opportunity to kind of talk about like everything going on for Arizona State. As somebody that does support Arizona State, to see the situation the way it's unfolded with the athletic director position, as of the last 48 to 72 hours, it feels like it was literally dead. The conversation was dead as it relates to that athletic director position. Then Cartman drops this, and now it's like, are we going to be going another 160 days without an athletic director? Because the boosters now, like you said earlier, it's kind of like a little revolt against the idea of an internal hire.
Yeah, and there is a legitimate question out there in the ether, and I first of all got to give credit to Brad Sesmat because I had lunch with him a few weeks ago, and he was like, if they name Graham Rossini the athletic director, if they promote an internal hire after waiting and redesigning how it's going to look, the boosters are going to have something to say about it.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how it played out. But there is a legitimate question as to why it was necessary. If this is what Michael Crow wanted to do all along, are we having a 5-month onboarding process? Was he putting him through feats of strength? Was it a 5-month interview?
Yeah. He had side quests.
Was it a courtship that they did? Did they fall in love or whatever? I immediately, when the position opened, I had people that reached out to me that said Graham Rossini would be perfect for this job. And it wasn't like a networking. It wasn't like Graham Rossini through back channels was trying to make sure that his name was involved.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that because that's how Kenny Dillingham got the Arizona State job. So I'm all for like manifesting, putting stuff out there, doing whatever you have to do to get noticed. Not to quote Eminem, but you only got one shot. So like, take it, right? Shoot your shot. This wasn't that. This was people that genuinely believed that he would do a good job. And we brought him up on Spaces. I think I tweeted about the guy because I don't know him. I've never had a conversation with him in my life. I think we follow each other on Twitter. For what purpose, I have no idea. Never had a conversation with the guy in ever. But it was somebody that people were like, yeah, we usually as fans do most of our justification after the fact. You figure out who you're getting and you're like, what's their resume look like? Oh, I guess I could see it. But at the end of the day, we have no control over anything that's going on. And especially in the ecosystem of Arizona State, where it feels like Michael Crow is emperor above all, we really have no control. So, but the idea that his name was out there allowed people to think on it, chew on it, vet him. And the idea that boosters would just kind of sitting back in the cut saying like, maybe we want Dave Benedict or maybe we want Rocky Harris, waiting for this thing that a lot of people expected to happen, which was Graham Rossini to be mentioned as the lead candidate, so that they could throw a tantrum, a collective tantrum, or exercise their power. I think depending on your perspective, I think either characterization is fair. It has been fascinating to watch, because one thing that I've also noticed in spaces and in other conversations is people are saying he may very well be the best man for the job. We don't care. We're
Yeah.
sick of Michael Crow.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with that information.
Yeah, it does feel like a little bit of a temper tantrum with the situation. Now, I think everything is, of course, elevated with the NCAA investigation stuff dropping not too long ago, right? On top of the fact, whether it's something that the boosters want to bring up, the fact that you had a former 5-star quarterback enter the portal, your top wide receiver enter the portal. Like, as it stands right now, the vibe around Arizona State athletics is a unique one, because it's not something that I think is totally negative, right? I think there are a lot of people that see the repercussions of the situation with the Herm Edwards investigation, and there's a group of folks that are, kind of happy with it, right? They're like, okay, we could finally put this behind us. And then there's the other half that I feel like, oh, we're back in the news again. Like, see, this is the view nationally of Arizona State is we break the rules, we can't win. You got Jaden Daniels, got all of these other situations ongoing. So when you do have that investigation come out and the NCAA drops it, and there is, coaches are accepting responsibility and in admitting to what they did, it is definitely a bad look. And then you have the idea of waiting 160 days to fill a very prominent role, probably the most prominent role, obviously, in the athletic department, with an internal hire. I can see the frustration. I think the boosters certainly have a point. Now, again, everything that I've heard as it relates to Rossini is he's a good dude. Like, he's a great guy. He would fit this job pretty perfectly. You talk about Kenny Dillingham, some of the other coaches at Arizona State having been Sun Devils, fits that mold. But because of how soon after this investigation dropped, it is like, this is the worst possible time for this to happen. And it makes me wonder, if this was a hire that occurred a month ago or 2 months ago, would this have been, a conversation that we're having? Is that a report that would have come out that boosters were maybe a little bit against an internal hire? I don't know, but I feel like that's certainly something to discuss when it comes to where we're at right now with the athletic director position.
Yeah, I believe that Michael Crow could get this hire through. I think it'd be a really specific recipe. He would have to humble himself, approach fans directly, whether that's coming on with you, sitting down with Craig Morgan, who I know he's familiar with, or whatever, and admitting that the last few years happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a big thing, is it, this 2022 interview of him coming out on 98.7 and telling people that, Herm wasn't involved, him continuing to back Ray Anderson. I guess this is the rough part. Like, my biggest pet peeve is feeling like I could do something better than an expert. I never want to feel that way.
Yeah.
Because there's like a helplessness in it. You feel like someone got one over on you, right? I think people felt that way sometimes with some of the things that Herm Edwards did, some of the things that Ray Anderson has done, and with Michael Crow's inability to admit that his athletic director's decision to kind of go against his reputation and hire a friend, create his own good old boy network when he had a reputation and lifetime of breaking barriers, actually set the program up for complete disaster. If he was to come out and he was to say, like, look, I was just being optimistic. I realize now what a big mistake it was to Ray Anderson's still my friend, but that there's a reason that this is a frowned upon business practice, that you should be looking for the best person, the best culture fit, the people that are actually qualified to accomplish the task at hand. Everybody makes mistakes. I made one too.
Mhm.
What I learned from it led me to this process of figuring out exactly what it is we need as a university to succeed in athletics, and not just in athletics, but in the sports that create the biggest amount of excitement and promote our values of being a high level university with ease of access to people who want that education. And for us, that was hiring Kenny Dillingham. And if you believe that Kenny Dillingham was the right choice, believe me, in that what I've learned from this process has led me to believe that Graham Rossini would be the correct option.
Mhm.
I think people would see that. I think people are kind of naturally forgiving. They're naturally optimistic, and they would say Michael Crow's had success in all of these other areas, but he realizes what we know. He has admitted it, and he's asking for us to get behind this program. He's trying to rally the troops, and I think that's all it would take. I really do. And every day that goes by where that isn't an option that's on the table comes off as stubborn, prideful, undemocratic, and just more of the same. And you can see why people grow more and more frustrated, because when Michael Crow has something to say, he goes to the student reporters of the state press. Shout out to the state press. He goes to them, and they'll feed him, 2 or 3 questions, and he'll answer those questions. It'll come out, and then we'll all talk about it.
Yeah.
About the conversation he had with the state press. But he needs to go out here on a blitz, because the attention that this university is getting for its front porch, for its sports programs, is largely negative.
Mhm.
And whether it was the decision to shy away from NIL, I know that Michael Crow as a person does not love the direction of college sports. Not up to you, buddy.
Yeah.
It's bigger than you.
Yeah.
Some things are bigger than you, Michael, or Mike, as I called him to his face the other day. Didn't mean to do that. Dr. Crow, I apologize. Some things are bigger than you, Dr. Crow, and we can't innovate our way out of everything. Sometimes you just have to make the practical decision. Sometimes you got to humble yourself and realize that it was actually your decisions that led Arizona State to the detrimental position that it currently exists in.
Yeah, whether it was just Crow or Ray and Herm, like there is a path in the same way that while the Herm and Ray situation was going on, it was Herm's responsibility, right? If his coaches were doing this under his watch, or if he was in part taking actions while these violations were going on, then it's on you as the leader of the football program. The same way that as a whole, it was on Ray Anderson as the athletic director who made that hire to hire his friend. It's on him to have a responsibility in this, in the same way that it's on Michael Crow to accept some responsibility for the things that have gone on with Arizona State athletics for the last handful of years. And I think, to add to what you said, the longer that we go without hearing from Michael Crow in a setting where he isn't fed the questions a week in advance, being able to prep his answers, the longer that this becomes a situation where the fan base and the boosters continue to distrust the leadership at Arizona State. And I think there's a sense of, whether it's real or not, of arrogance that comes with the idea of not speaking to the media, or not, having an opportunity at a public forum for fans to actually ask questions, right? To get an idea of why Michael Crow has made decision after decision that feels like neglect toward the Arizona State athletic department. Every reporter at Arizona State practices will tell you it feels like Michael Crow doesn't care about athletics. That is not what the fan base wants to hear, right?
Yeah.
That's not what boosters want to hear. And quite frankly, you hear that, and if I'm a booster or if I'm a fan with some money, why would I want to dish out money? Why would I want to invest in an athletic program when the administration itself doesn't? When it so obviously goes in a backwards direction year over year. And I think I was having this conversation this morning. I think there are, from the outside looking in, it is very, why is Arizona State like this? Why can't they win? Why can't the largest public institution in America find some sort of success on the gridiron, the hardwood, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And I think You can look to individuals, a Kenny Dillingham, a J.J. Van Neal, other coaches across the university. You can say, you know what, they've got the right people, but there isn't an investment in Arizona State athletics. And in 2024, if you're not investing in your athletic program, you won't win. Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't
Yeah.
college athletics is no longer a Disney movie where every year you can have a team that out of nowhere does something magical, right? Maybe in the NCAA tournament you can catch heat, but that is the only event like that in college sports where that's the reality. Every other sport, every other tournament, it requires an investment from the administration, from the fan base. And right now, Ralph, the administration is on one side and the fan base is on the other.
Absolutely. And to name drop the big boss, let's say that back on March 11th, 2020, Utah Jazz game gets called off. The world changes forever, right? So let's say that everybody had to shelter in place exactly where they were at. But you had the ability to procure supplies. So all of PHNX as a company is stuck in the office. You're going to be stuck together and you don't know for how long. Mm-hmm. All you know is that the world has changed. And Saul Bookman, who is responsible for all of the lives in this building, their well-being, their comfort, and just in a natural position as a leader, gets a phone call and it says, "Hey, Saul, I don't know if you're seeing this. I don't know if you've been out, but I'm at the grocery store and there's only like 4 things of toilet paper on the shelves." And, Saul's on speakerphone. The whole office gets to hear it. Everybody knows that not only has something changed, but now that there's a lack of resources, mm-hmm. and it's going to take a sense of urgency to make sure that everybody's taken care of. If Saul looked at your whole office and he's like, "I don't know, man, we're not going to get in an arms race over toilet paper." And all of a sudden, a couple of days goes by and Anthony Totri is wiping his ass with his hand. He's not going to be super happy with Saul's decision.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that is an absolutely terrible, terrible illustration. But what it really comes down to is the Supreme Court made it very, very obvious that amateurism as a concept was unconstitutional, something that mm-hmm. a lot of people had been echoing for a very, very long time. And all of the sudden, there is a battle for resources. Resources determine success. And the official message from your boss and his mouthpiece is that we are not going to concern ourselves with getting into an arms race over resources. Is it any wonder that the people that worked under that umbrella went out and made some sort of attempt to procure resources on their own in a way that was outside of what was essentially allowed?
Yeah.
It's no question. The way that Arizona State's coaches acted was created by the power vacuum of having a head coach in place who had absolutely no idea what he was doing. None whatsoever. An athletic director who did not provide him with the resources to be able to live up to his ultimate vision, and a university president who didn't give a shit that those decisions were going to lead to the ultimate demise of the football program. And you had a lot of people at the time saying that this is going to end in disaster. They all seemed like Chicken Little at the time, but now you look out at the landscape of things and it is very, very hard to take anything that Michael Crow does seriously without some level of acknowledgement or contrition in the fact that he is the one that not contributed to, but created this landscape of chaos for Arizona State University athletics.
Yeah, it really is chaos. And while we're having this conversation, I can't even fathom what the backlash would have been like now, knowing the results of the way the Pac-12 split up. If Arizona State would have got caught on the outside looking in, right? What the fan base's response to something like that would have been, because Michael Crow isn't a well-liked president by sports fans, right? Now, there are obviously some phenomenal things that Michael Crow has done for Arizona State University. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the show as to why his contract is what it is. But if you go to Tempe, and if you go to Sun Devil Stadium, if you go to DFA, if you go to Club Farrington, and you talk to an Arizona State fan about Michael Crow in the athletic department, they will sit there and chew your ear off about how Michael Crow is the wrong person for this job because he does not believe in the current state of college athletics, which, like you said, some things are just bigger. They're bigger than Michael Crow. They're bigger than every other university president and athletic director in the nation. Things are changing. It is either get on board or get left behind. And for the first few years, because it's still wild to think about NIL in the transfer portal in its current age are still in infancy, right? This is something that we've still been dealing with for just a few years now, whether it's been happening, under the table or back doors, regardless.
Yeah.
Like, these things are going to continue to evolve. They're going to continue to change. Now, whether that is, an advancement in further chaos of NIL, which that is certainly, there's a reality out there where things get crazier than they do now. A report just came out today that more players are in the transfer portal than ever before, right? Over 3,500 in this current window, and there's still 5 days left and 6 days for grad students. So things can certainly continue to elevate and change in the wrong direction if you're Arizona State and Michael Crow on the outside looking in. So certainly things need to change as it relates to that, whether that be, even a statement, right? I think that would even go a little bit of a ways with the fan base. Of course, I think, getting out there and actually answering questions in a public setting or on the podcast, whatever, would go a long, long way. But as it relates back to this athletic director position, again, like, there just needs to be discussion. I think there is, we can call it backlash. There can be backlash. There can be boosters that say, hey, you know what? We're not going to donate if this is the guy, whatever. I think in terms of this temper tantrum, I don't have kids, right? So I don't necessarily know how you deal with these types of things. But I feel like if you're at the grocery store with your children, right, and they are slamming, they're screaming, they're crying, they're on their back, and they're not going to get up until you get them the cereal that they want, right? There's a little bit of a discussion that happens, right? It's not just as the dad, you're either going to give them what they want or vice versa. They're just going to give up, right? Because that's not what's going to happen at this point. The boosters, in my mind, are not going to, after what's happened, it's not going to be just a give up. But there needs to be just some sort of dialogue, some sort of conversation. And Michael Crow needs to sit there and take it on the chin and just answer some of the questions and have a discussion, even if it is just with the boosters, about Graham Rossini or any of these other internal candidates for this position. Otherwise, this temper tantrum is going to get worse, and you're going to have the entire grocery store laughing at you, Ralph.
Yeah. Oh man. There's nobody in the world that I have more disdain for than parents of well-behaved kids in public. And I got good kids. I got really, really good kids, but like the ones that just kind of know what they're doing out in a public space and like they're checked in and not like making things difficult, and it's not like herding cats. I get very jealous. I get very agitated of that. But it's a good illustration, because the whole thing is when it comes to trying to get what you want, sometimes it's on impulse and out of emotion, and sometimes it's calculated, and what's interesting about your illustration is the grocery stores, they create that, right? They line the checkout area with candy. Like it's just there. They create that opportunity. And so, I think college sports has created the opportunity for fans and boosters to be much more influential than they've ever been. And I think Michael Crow recognizes that, whether he likes it or not. And the most interesting thing about Dr. Crow is I think anybody would describe him as agile or forward thinking or willing to try things that maybe other people wouldn't necessarily want to try, or at least has the ability to see when someone does something that works. He talks about Stanford being a model, Vanderbilt being a model of what he wants, Arizona State to aspire to. So he's not like an invalid. He is agile. He does know how to go about things, but then you run into these certain situations, like with the other collegiate presidents when it came to the Apple TV deal and keeping the Pac-12 together. He was like, I don't know why these other 11 people don't see what I see. And the response to that was less access and less money, and a barrier of entry to watch when the entire industry is pushing back against streamers to move back into a cable model.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's possible that you're just incorrect.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen sometimes, but when he is incorrect, it tends to have a very negative effect on the thing that we prioritize as fans of collegiate athletics. We want every opportunity available to Arizona State to be accessible for student athletes, for coaches. What you don't want is a situation where people are protective of their resources because they don't want it to benefit one person that is affiliated with, and that's, I think, been one of the big issues the last couple of years is Ray Anderson's like, we don't want to get involved in this money game, which was a directive from Michael Crow. And then people with money were like, fine, then you can't have it.
Yeah.
And that standoff hurt everyone. And it was created by Michael Crow. And there just needs to be some acknowledgement of the fact that he can at the very least can come out and say, I had a clear point of view. I had a very clear set of values and a clear point of view, and it is evident to me that those are not in keeping with the direction that things are going, which interestingly enough is something that Ray Anderson was not above saying. Ray Anderson didn't exactly humble himself when he stepped aside, but he did come out and say it's probably going to take somebody else to shepherd us through the direction that these things are going. The irony of that was that he created the entire new leadership model, pro model marketing campaign. And then the moment that college sports was like, yeah, we're going to go more to a pro model, Ray Anderson was like, oh, no, not like that. So, you never know if somebody's being sincere or not, or if it's just corporate speak, but at least Ray Anderson had the ability at some point to admit that if things are going to keep going the direction that they're going, I'm probably not the right person to be doing so. And I hope that Michael Crow heard that and understands that whoever is next is going to have a different and more open set of values when it comes to where we go as an athletic department. But how can you have that if you're taking your directives from somebody who won't change? And I think that's the fear that boosters have, is that Graham Rossini or whoever it is are going to be getting their talking points from somebody who is so far off base that our sports programs are either on the side of like women's basketball, as bad as they've ever been in history, or on the side of football, which is now on a 4-year probation.
Yeah. Yeah, neither one of those is too beautiful, right? If you're an Arizona State fan, like you bring up some really, really valid points. So we're going to continue talking about Michael Crow, the booster situation. We'll get into Jaden Rashada a little bit later in the show. If you guys are here, again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And look, if you're an Arizona State fan, you might not be able to bet on who's going to be the next athletic director of the Arizona State Sun Devils. That would be a hell of a prop that you could find. And I don't even know where I put my money, to be completely honest with you. With the current situation, the odds would be astronomical. You may not be able to bet on that, but you can bet on just about everything else over at the BetMGM Sportsbook app, guys. They've got an offer for you. If you haven't signed up already, just download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $10 into your BetMGM Sportsbook account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. And if the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. I saw somebody put, I believe, $10,000 on Caleb Williams to go first overall today. That pays a solid $100 with the astronomical odds. But if you guys want to bet on the NFL draft, the NBA playoffs, MLB. BetMGM is the place. Again, just to recap, sign up for BetMGM and use that bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through BetMGM Sportsbook mobile app for at least $10, and you guys are going to receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Check out the show notes for full details. And Allison and Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY, 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Now, when you win a bunch of coin over on the BetMGM Sportsbook app, you're going to need a place that you trust to put it. And there's nobody that we trust more than Desert Financial, guys. They are the official retail banking partner of Arizona State University. Look, you can trust them far more than Arizona State fans can trust Michael Crow. I'll tell you that right now. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. Look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. They have a couple of 4 5-star commits over at DFCU, guys. If you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. Now is the time to show your ASU team spirit. Open a free checking account online and get $200 plus your choice of 3 Arizona State University Visa debit cards. Go to desertfinancial.com/ASU to get started. Ralph, we'll get into the Michael Crow ABOR stuff here in a second, but I wanted to start off, or I guess finish the conversation as it relates to the booster situation, just with the why. Why has it taken this long, do you think? Why is this stuff coming out right now? Whether that be, or just your 2 cents on why it has been 160 days without an athletic director, and here we are, April 25th, and now it's like, okay, we'll make the decision. And it is an internal hire. I think part of that, probably has fueled a little bit of the frustration with the fan base and the boosters, that it took months and months just for them to pick a guy that was already in the office for this position.
Yeah, I mean, the reasons that they're giving kind of sound like the reasons that they're giving for why they haven't made a move on the athletic director position sound a lot like the way people talk when they won't update their wardrobe, even though they've gained a little bit of weight. Right? Like, hey, I'm going to get new clothes. I just got to lose 15 pounds first. But like, why don't you just get a new shirt and get some underwear without holes in it?
Yeah.
And then lose the 15 pounds and then update your wardrobe as you go. This whole thing of like, we're going to change everything. And then we're going to bring in somebody who had no say in how we changed everything to lead. It's never made a lot of sense to me. But then to come out and say, well, but what if the hire is internal? Then why not just make that hire? They're questions that can't be answered by anybody but someone who will only speak to the state press. So I don't know.
Who would have to approve the question? Who would have to approve that question before he answered it?
Right. Great point. Why go 5 months without? Man, I don't know.
Like, I'm just trying to get my head in, like, as much as I would hate the reality of this, I just would love to, for like a second, just be in Michael Crow's brain for a second and just wander around to the part where he keeps the sports thoughts, which is probably deep down in the basement somewhere where, the lights aren't on. It's just a pretty barren wasteland, at least in that part. So for me, I don't know. I don't know the why. I've tried to dance around the idea of, okay, maybe he's just waiting for, I guess a new fiscal year, or waiting for all of the major sports at Arizona State to conclude, waiting for the end of baseball season and spring football so that the new athletic director can get a fresh start for an entire situation. Like, because of the Ray thing happening during football season, basketball was going on, I guess. But I can't really think of another alternative, especially if it's an internal hire. An external hire, you can be like, okay, that individual had other things going on with the university, whatever, setting up X, Y, and Z. But quite literally, this guy was already in Crow's council, right? Like, so why is it taking that much time. It's just I can't find an answer for it.
There might not be one. And I say that because so when everybody started working from home, you know, it was never a big deal to like clean our house.
Yeah.
Never. But when you're always here, sometimes you just want a break, right? So at some point, my wife decides to hire people to come in once every 2 weeks and just do a deep clean. Because, I mean, that's what happens at offices. Like a custodial crew will come in and, you know, they'll vacuum, they'll take out the trashes, they'll do all those things. So this is our workspace. It makes sense to bring somebody in. I disagreed. You know, I was like, just give me a list, I'll get it done. It is what it is. But, you know, my wife said, no, we're gonna bring somebody in. And I was like, fine. I don't agree, but I understand your logic. And then the day that they'd come around 10:30 in the morning. We would have to get up at 7 and we would have to clean for the cleaning crew. We would clean so that she wasn't embarrassed by like what our home looked like when strangers came in. And in my head, I'm like, we're already cleaning.
Yeah.
And we would fight. We never fight. We would fight about this. And it got to the point where on every other Wednesday, I would go work from my car like three blocks away. I would get in my car at 8 in the morning and I wouldn't come back till like 1. I would go sit in my car for like 5 hours and I would just work because I didn't want to deal with it. And at the end of the day, like after 6 months of this, it hit me that like there is no reason for this. It's just what she wants.
Yeah.
And she is the boss. And so I had to reconcile something that I was never going to get to with the way that I thought about the process. When you talk about what Arizona State is doing right now out loud, it is very hard to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And the more you talk about it, the more you get into a feedback loop of your own logic. And it becomes a genuinely like dismaying process. And there is no outlet for it. There's no one to talk to about it. There is no answer. Nobody is really providing anything as to why it's good for Arizona State, which is in the middle of a massive disaster caused by a lack of leadership. Why it is good for Arizona State to continue on the path of not actually having people in those leadership positions when University of Arizona disagrees. They went and hired their AD right away. Alabama, or not Alabama, but Nebraska
Washington
disagrees. They took Washington's AD, who had only been on the job for 6 months. Then Washington turned around and jacked Pat Chun from Washington State. Like everybody else considers it to be vital. It's the way that USC ended up with Jen Cohen from Washington. Everyone considers this to be vital but us. And so I'm just sitting back here asking, why are we cleaning for the cleaning crew? And I don't think there's an answer. I really don't. I don't think that there's something that Michael Crow could come out and say that would be satisfactory to anybody who is thinking about the way that college athletics works in a traditional fashion or works for everybody else, or, you know, just makes sense.
Yeah.
I just don't, at this point, the only thing I can come up with for an answer is that there isn't one. So I'm gonna go sit in my car down the street and wait.
Oh my goodness. That is so the reality of Arizona State fans too. Like you have this really pressing question after everything, like you said, a disaster, a shitstorm that's going on now in Tempe. And the answer is, well, there isn't one. Sorry. On to the next thing. Like that's quite literally what the situation is. It's almost like you're asking, again, I don't know why I keep having the kid analogies, but like this is what we got, I guess. Just in terms of like your kid is asking you for something, or hey, Dad, look at this, look at this, look at this. And if you just like brush it off long enough, they'll forget about it type of thing. Like, I feel like that's what Michael Crow is going for here. Where he's just like, we want to talk about this.
I think you keep bringing up kids because you possess the knowledge deep in the recesses of your brain that you can't just walk away from them.
Yeah.
You can't just like when they do stuff that doesn't make sense, when they do stuff that like, you can't just leave. You can't just go out for a pack of cigarettes. And for 99% of Arizona State fans, we can't just walk away from ASU sports. We can't. So like we're stuck here trying to figure out what one dude is doing.
Yeah.
And 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 I don't know if there's a way to reconcile that. I really don't. It's fun to speculate on. I would love if he would just come out and be like, hey, I understand the last 3-4 years has been pretty crazy. I take ownership in my part of that. Here is the direction that we're moving.
Mhm.
It's not a mystery. There isn't like a carrot at the end of the stick that's like, just you wait, you'll see, I'll be proven right. Because
Mhm.
that's how they treated the Herm Edwards hire, was like, just you wait. And I always reference, it got taken down off of iTunes, which is maddening. But there's a Ray Anderson interview with Andrew Hobner on a podcast called Pac-12 This Week. And it was recorded in summer of 2021. And it was 40 minutes of Ray Anderson being like, nobody saw this vision but me. We're about to blow up college football. It's all coming to fruition. I can't wait. I'm going to get some apologies from all these people who have been super nasty. Like, it's coming. And like the dossier dropped 2 weeks later and the entire thing fell apart. But he was gearing up for like the world's biggest I told you so to the people that didn't see his vision. And that's what makes me wonder is if Michael Crow is carrying around the belief that I am antagonizing all of the fans of this wonderful university with my secret vision because I need so badly for it to be a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, like,
So
I don't know if
strange.
anybody's ever thrown you a surprise party, but everything that happens before that is like they need to drive you around the city to run errands with them while your house gets set up for this surprise. So they spend an entire day inconveniencing you. And by the end of the day, you're absolutely exhausted. Then you walk through your front door and it's everyone you've ever loved there to celebrate how special you are. Like, are we set up here to have a ASU surprise party? Are we all just stupid? And please
don't
say
think
no,
so.
because we have degrees from your university, Michael.
That's funny. That's funny. Where Ray Anderson still teaches, to my knowledge. So
Yes, he does.
It's
with
just-
Lon Babby. One
just-
class on Tuesdays from 9 to noon.
Dear
for
Lord.
$450,000 a pop.
Look, Michael Crow may not be able to answer any of those questions, or at least he hasn't up to this point. But looking down the line, looking at the future for Arizona State, Michael Crow, a little bit beyond the athletic director position, I know when everything had come out, again, a lot of people really, really upset with the idea that Crow and Anderson agreed to the roughly $4.4 million buyout for Herm Edwards, kind of as a mutually parting ways after the Eastern Michigan game. Doesn't sit right, especially with everything that's come out going on with the NCAA investigation. Not only did Herm know, he took part in it. Ray knew, Crow knew, going on the radio saying that, Herm was a victim of all this, didn't necessarily, take part in it. Absolutely ridiculous. And then to find out that, Herm knew, he was part of it, all this stuff, and they still gave him $4.4 million.
Think about how awesome it is to carry the mindset that you're not responsible for what people do under you, right? Like, that feels almost like a trick that you have to play on yourself, because if Herm's not responsible for what happens under him, then Ray's not responsible for what happens under him, then Dr. Michael Crow is not responsible for what happens under him. So you almost have to have that kind of defense for like, my downline is messing up. Somebody should get control of these
But
people.
it's delusion. It's delusion. Yeah. Like, then at that point, nobody's responsible for anything. Like, ever. It's just, you can always push it further down the line. And again, like, Herm's gone. Ray is kind of gone. He's on sabbatical, right? And then you've got Crow, who's still here and not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But there was a report Chris Cartman again put out yesterday saying that ABOR is considering bonus structuring that would incentivize greater revenue sports success in Michael Crow's next contract. Again, that is attributed to Chris Cartman of Sun Devil Source. Just again, so for those of you that are listening at home, wherever you're listening on audio, if you're watching live, Michael Crow, as of last year, had his contract extended through June of 2028. His base salary as of October of 2023 is a little bit more than $830,000. Also, last year received a $150,000 bonus. So, regardless of the restructuring and the incentivizing of greater revenue sports success, for the people that saw that and immediately were like, okay, we could get back on track, let's pump the brakes because it's 2024. His contract's not up till 2028. We still got nearly half a decade before. that conversation really becomes a thing. Now, assuming that's the case in the Arizona Board of Regents, which Michael Crow has already in his pocket, is that like something that you can see genuinely kind of changing the narrative about Michael Crow in Arizona State? Because it is almost like we're forcing him at this point. The Arizona Board of Regents is forcing Michael Crow to give a shit about play on the field and on the court.
What's your least favorite thing to do at work?
My least favorite thing to do at work. You want an honest answer here?
Yeah, like meetings that could have been an email. Like, what's your least favorite thing?
Ooh, least favorite thing at work? Probably like publishing things to the website after the fact. But that's always been my least favorite.
Okay, so like the minutia of like the busy work. Okay,
yeah,
the administrative stuff. Okay, so what percentage of your salary would it take for you to not only no longer for that to evaporate from your personality, for it to actually like become one of your favorite things?
To become one of my favorite things?
Yes, like what would it take? Because this is an attitude issue.
Yeah,
it's an attitude issue. It's a philosophy issue. It's not like for Michael Crow, it's not like he just didn't realize that was part of his job, was to try to
just something he doesn't want to do.
Functional athletics. Yeah, he philosophically disagrees with certain views of what his role should be when it comes to ASU athletics. So what percentage of your salary would it take for you to have a philosophical evolution on posting stuff to the website after the fact?
25%.
Okay, so could they structure something that was basically like, of the, I don't know, 1.5 million that you make every single year, 350,000 of that is going to become dependent upon, the performance of revenue sports.
Yeah.
At Arizona State University. I think maybe if it was that impactful, but that also wouldn't be in, it wouldn't keep with the structure of what his actual job is, which is athletics essentially being maybe like 5% of his overall responsibility, not even what he's compensated based on, but his overall responsibility. So when I think about it that way, it seems impossible to me. It's one of those things where it feels like we just want to say that we did something. The truth of the matter is we need somebody who it's just their priority.
Yeah. It's so a part of already that philosophical like idea for them.
Either he needs to change or it needs to be delegated. He needs to function essentially as the president of one of the largest public universities in the country, one of, I think, the top 3 largest public universities in the country, and he needs to be able to focus his energy, efforts, mental acuity on things outside of sports, and it really needs to come down to somebody else that does have an appetite for those things. And so I would rather that percentage be dedicated to someone who has that belief, not Michael Crow's actual salary structure. But if we're talking about $200,000-$300,000, then that should go into the budget of looking for the right person to do this job.
Yeah.
Just like, finding somebody to maybe outsource for 25% of what your salary currently is, not to be taken away from you, but in addition to what you already do, to focus on posting stuff to the website, because that allows you to focus on what you do best, and it keeps you out of spending time at your job doing something you don't want to do, and it gives somebody else an opportunity to do what they're going to do. So I don't think it's going to have any impact on Michael Crow as a person, because this is it's a heart issue. It's a will issue, not a skill issue. He's a very capable man.
It's the love of the game.
And I hear people say all the time that, like, this is a guy who doesn't care about athletics.
Yeah.
I went to ASU versus Oregon and Sabrina Ionescu when they were like the 3rd ranked team in the country. ASU knocked them off at home. Robbie Ryan, Charlie Turner Thorne. I sat up in like the 30th row, and I went as a fan. Love ASU women's basketball. Loved Charlie Turner Thorne. I went as a fan, right? Robbie Ryan from my hometown in Sheridan, Wyoming, used to be my halftime orange slice girl and clipboard holder when I coached youth soccer.
Wow.
So, big fan of her, big fan of the program. I went to the game as a fan while working in the capacity also as a media member
Yeah.
for other sports. And I sat next to Michael Crow in the 30th row and watched him mow down an entire bucket of popcorn. Why, if he doesn't care about athletics at all, is he out there with like his grandkids watching women's basketball? I do think he cares. I just think that he has a different philosophy than most fans would like for him to have, and a different philosophy than one that is prudent or effective. So my whole thing is like, we shouldn't be talking about incentivizing him to do more. We should be incentivizing him to get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will give you $300,000 to not think about sports ever again.
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. Ralph, I love having you on because you always put things into perspective, and I love the analogies that you give, man. They're spot on. Look, we'll get your 2 cents on Jaden Rashada before we get out of here in just a second. But first, I want to tell everybody about our friends over at Circle K. If you haven't been, I don't know what you're doing. It's hard to miss Circle K's. They've got literally locations all over. Their America's Thirst Shop, their Ralph's Thirst Shop, their PHNX's Thirst Shop. Guys, they've got a new free membership program. It's going to help you save money every single day. And if you haven't signed up, sign up right now, and you're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And if that's not enough, they're going to help you save money every single day after that. Save 3 cents per gallon every day, regardless of those first 5 fill-ups. And there's always, with Circle K, it's never just 2. It's always an and. They're always trying to do the most for you guys. Get every 6th free in a selection of those Circle K products. We're talking pizza, coffee, ice cold fountain drinks, and more. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Our participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details, guys. Also, you've got your car. It's full of gas. You're looking for a place to go. Maybe it's a Diamondbacks game. Maybe it's an ASU sporting event. Maybe it's a Cardinals draft party. Whatever it is, you can get your tickets on Game Time. I've already used Game Time twice this year. Used it again to get some tickets in June. They make it so damn easy to get tickets last minute, an affordable price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Ralph, before we get out of here.
I got a homework assignment for you real quick.
Oh, God. Okay.
Okay, so as soon as we get off this, I want you to Google my name.
Okay.
Google me is a wild thing to say, but just I want you to Google my name and Circle K.
Oh, God, there's a story.
I want you to find out when you're just alone.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
I'll get on that. Jaden Rashada, he's a transfer into Georgia. This was the graphic that was posted on Instagram, I believe earlier this morning. It's absolutely disgusting. No offense to whoever made the graphic. I just hate those jerseys. And seeing former Sun Devils in SEC colors, just it really rubs me the wrong way. Obviously, we know of Jaden Daniels, LSU. Ironically enough, he's going to get drafted today in the top 5, likely the top 3. And on that same day, you have another quarterback that was a former Arizona State Sun Devil named Jaden. And he's on his way to an SEC powerhouse, the same way Daniels was. What is Georgia getting with the Jaden Rashada?
A developmental project. He's injured. And this is, you got to understand, like, this is a recruitment that Kirby Smart was in on personally.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to say, like, we have Carson Beck. Jaden Rashada has a thumb injury. I see some things in Jaden Rashada that I see in Carson Beck. I think he can set us up for some long-term success. And this injury puts Jaden Rashada in a position where it's not going to hurt him to have some time to develop. And that's the thing that Jaden Rashada really cares about most right now, is being developed. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but the truth of the matter is, when you combine his injury with the way that the spring worked out, he believed very much that ASU has their guy. And I believe that he's right, that ASU has their guy and all of their focus and energy is going into that guy. And he did not believe, even serving in the capacity of a back, and I believe he was willing to back up Trenton Bourget if that's the way that it worked out. But I don't think he believed that that the development, even as a bench player, even due to a physical ailment, was going to take place at Arizona State. And I understand everybody that says do let the door hit you on the way out. I get that. I get that perspective. But for anyone that's saying he's like scared to compete or whatever, I really don't think that was it. I think ASU was lucky to have had the opportunity to have him in the first place, because he wasn't going to come to ASU. It was like a series of unfortunate events that led to him being here for the short time that he was. But he was, you know him, he was really well liked in the building.
He was really well liked.
Really well by people that don't have anything to do with the football team.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound cliche, but custodians, equipment people, like he was really well liked.
Yeah.
He was always polite. He was always an ambassador for the program. I think that he very strongly believed that Arizona State had moved on from him. How much of it he believes is his fault for getting injured, I don't know. But I think that he believed that the ASU has their guy, and I do too. I think that ASU believes they have their guy, and that's Sam Leavitt. So it doesn't bother me at all that he's gone. We were lucky to have him in the first place, and I wish him the best at Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's again really all you can do, and people obviously are going to make the direct correlation. Jaden Rashada, Jaden Daniels, like it's just bound to happen. LSU, Georgia, and people are going to make those comments. Again, it was a little bit of a different situation. Jaden Daniels obviously won that starting quarterback job, was there a couple seasons. Rashada has, I think some wild potential to go out there and be a phenomenal quarterback at this level. I don't think he's afraid of the competition, but I'll tell you what, the competition at Georgia it's going to be tough at that quarterback position. They've already got their guy, like you said, in Beck. They've got other quarterbacks on the roster, Colin Drake, Sam Bush, Gunnar Stockton, and they got themselves a 4-star quarterback in Ryan Montgomery, who is set to be, I believe, a class of 2025 quarterback at Georgia. So
who's going to be the player to be named later? Let's send us one back in return, Kirby.
Yeah, let's do it. As long as it's not an Alabama quarterback, I think Arizona State is good on Bama quarterbacks. Blake Barnett, Paul Tyson, we're A-okay on that front. But sure, send one. Actually, you know what? You don't even need to send us a quarterback, Kirby. Just send us one of those interior offensive linemen or a tackle. We'll take one of those. Sure. I think that'll do.
For sure.
I'll take a defensive tackle at this. Yeah, at this point, we're all good on that. But guys, that is going to do it.
I'd take a bag of cash.
Yeah, sure. Why an athletic director? Maybe
send us your associate athletic director.
We'll take it. Guys, that is going to do it for today's show. Again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. You can follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony_Totri. You can follow Ralph on social at Ralph Amsden. Always a pleasure to have Ralph on the show. You can follow DJ Danielle at Abracadanielle across social media, guys. In the meantime, go Devils, and we'll see you following the ASU spring game tomorrow. A little bit of a post-game show, so definitely stay tuned for that. But again, go Devils, and peace.
We all silly like the mayor.